Let's talk about what truly drives success. Not luck, not background, not even talent. It's your mindset, the invisible force that shapes every decision, every action, every result in your life. You can have all the potential in the world, but if your mind is programmed to limit you, you'll keep hitting the same walls over and over again. See, most people are running on a mental operating system that was installed years ago by parents, teachers, society, and painful experiences. They don't even realize it's running. They wake up, go through the same motions, think the same thoughts, and wonder why life doesn't change. But the truth is simple. You can't live a new life with an old mindset. You've got to reprogram the way you think, the way you speak, the way you believe. Because your thoughts create your emotions drive your actions, and your actions shape your destiny. So if you want new results, you've got to upgrade your mental software. The first step is awareness. You can't change what you don't see. Start noticing the stories you tell yourself, the excuses, the fears, the I can't, I'm not ready, I'm not enough. Those thoughts aren't facts, they're habits. You've rehearsed them so many times they've become your truth, but you can choose a different truth. You can decide right now to think empowering thoughts. Thoughts that pull you forward instead of hold you back. The second step is conditioning. Repetition is the mother of mastery. You can't just think positive once and expect your life to change. You've got to train your mind like a muscle. Every single day, feed it new beliefs. Replace I can't with I will. Replace I don't know how with I'll find a way. Replace I'm afraid to fail with I'm ready to grow, because whatever you focus on consistently becomes your reality. The third step is emotion. Change doesn't come from information. It comes from intensity. If you attach strong emotion to new beliefs, your brain rewires faster. Feel it in your body. Stand tall. Breathe deep. Move with purpose. Act as if the version of you you've always dreamed of has already arrived. Because when you change your state, you change your story. And when you change your story, you change your life. And finally, action. You can reprogram your mind all day long, but if you don't act, nothing happens. Momentum builds confidence. Progress builds belief. Every time you take action, even small action, you reinforce a new identity. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it. You stop being the person who hopes and start being the person who decides. So ask yourself right now, what kind of mind do you want to live with? A mind that limits you or a mind that liberates you? Because both are available. The difference is choice. You have the power to rewrite your internal code, to uninstall fear, self-doubt, and scarcity, and replace them with clarity, confidence, and purpose. The world doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to who you are. When your mind is aligned with success, your actions follow, and success becomes inevitable. You weren't born to settle. You weren't born to repeat the past. You were born to create, to expand, to lead. So stop running old programs. Stop doubting your worth. Reprogram your mind for success, and watch everything in your life rise to meet that new standard. Because once your mind changes, everything changes. Awareness is the first step to transformation, because without it, you can't change anything. Most people live their entire lives asleep, operating on autopilot, running the same patterns over and over again, and wondering why nothing ever changes. They don't see their habits, they don't notice their thoughts, and they don't question the beliefs that are quietly dictating their entire reality. Awareness is the flashlight that reveals what's been running your life beneath the surface. It's the moment you catch yourself thinking a limiting thought and realize, wait, I've been repeating this story for years. It's when you become conscious of the moments you shrink, hesitate, or sabotage yourself, and you begin to see that those reactions aren't who you are. They're just the programs you've been conditioned to follow. Every single thought you think, every emotion you feel, every decision you make comes from the level of awareness you operate in. When awareness is low, life feels random, reactive, and chaotic. You blame people, circumstances, and luck. But when awareness expands, you begin to see that everything happening outside of you is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. You start to recognize patterns. You start to notice your triggers, your fears, your excuses, your energy. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift in perception is where transformation begins, because now you're no longer a victim of life. You're a creator in it. Awareness is power, because it puts you back in control. When you know what's happening within you, you can change it. You can interrupt old patterns and replace them with new ones. You can see when fear tries to whisper in your ear and choose courage instead. You can catch yourself spiraling into doubt and shift your focus toward gratitude or progress. Awareness gives you choice. It gives you freedom. It allows you to respond rather than react, to move intentionally rather than impulsively. Without awareness, you're stuck replaying old tapes, trapped by invisible forces that control your behavior. With awareness, you start to see that those forces were never stronger than your will. They just operated in the dark. The journey to awareness begins with observation. Observe your thoughts without judgment. Notice how often you think about what could go wrong instead of what could go right. Notice how your body reacts when you face challenges, the tension in your chest, the tightness in your jaw, the quickness of your breath. Notice how your language shapes your reality, the words you use to describe yourself, your future, and your circumstances. The mind is like a mirror. What you see reflected is what you've allowed to take root in your inner world. The more you observe, the more you understand what's really going on beneath the surface. You can't fix what you refuse to face. So instead of running from discomfort, lean into it. When you feel resistance, pay attention. Resistance reveals the very areas that need healing, growth, or attention. Awareness isn't always comfortable. In fact, it's often confronting. It shows you your patterns, your procrastination, your emotional addictions, your limiting beliefs. But the moment you become aware of them, they begin to lose power. What once controlled you unconsciously is now exposed to the light, and light always dissolves darkness. Think of awareness as the foundation of self-mastery. You can't master what you don't understand. You can't change your behavior if you're unaware of the triggers that cause it. The first breakthrough happens when you step back and become the observer of your life instead of the actor trapped in the scene. You begin to realize that your thoughts are not facts, they are just thoughts. You start to recognize that emotions are signals, not commands. You start to separate who you truly are from what your mind has been conditioned to believe. Every transformation in life starts with that, or aha moment. The instant of realization when you see clearly what's been holding you back. Maybe it's the awareness that you've been living in fear instead of faith. Maybe it's the awareness that you've been chasing validation instead of purpose. Maybe it's the awareness that you've been waiting for permission to become who you were meant to be. That moment changes everything because it breaks the illusion that you're powerless. Once you see the pattern, you can't unseen it. Once you know better, you can start to do better. Awareness also demands honesty. You can't transform with excuses. You can't grow while pretending. Awareness requires that you face yourself, the truth about what you've avoided, the truth about where you've settled, the truth about how your own thinking has shaped your reality. But this honesty isn't about guilt or blame. It's about empowerment. It's about saying, if I created this reality through unconscious thought, I can create a better one through conscious intention. That's the moment you shift from limitation to liberation. When you practice awareness daily, you start to feel a deeper sense of clarity and calm. You begin to recognize that the external world no longer dictates your inner world. You stop reacting to every challenge with chaos because you know that you are not your circumstances. You are the awareness behind them. You gain emotional control. You move with presence. You speak with intention. You start to see opportunities where others see problems, growth where others see failure, and lessons where others see pain. To develop awareness, you must slow down enough to notice. In silence, in reflection, in journaling, in meditation, you can hear the deeper voice within you. The voice that's been buried under noise, fear, and distraction. That voice is your truth. It's the part of you that knows who you are and what you're capable of. But you can't access it if you're always rushing, reacting, or numbing yourself with distractions. Awareness is built through stillness, observation, and intention. Every time you catch yourself drifting into old patterns, you strengthen your awareness. Every time you notice a negative thought and replace it with a powerful one, you rewire your brain. Every time you pause before reacting and choose to respond differently, you evolve. Awareness is not a one-time revelation. It's a lifelong practice. It's about constantly checking in with yourself, asking, what am I feeling? What am I focusing on? What story am I telling myself right now? Because the quality of your life will always reflect the quality of your awareness. The more you practice awareness, the more you begin to master your inner world. And when you master your inner world, your outer world begins to transform naturally. You stop trying to force change and start allowing it to unfold from within. Everything you desire, success, peace, love, abundance, begins with the awareness of who you are and what you're choosing to focus on. Once you raise your awareness, you raise your life. Repetition rewires the mind for success because the human brain learns through consistency, not intensity. It's not what you do once that changes you. It's what you do over and over again until it becomes who you are. The mind doesn't respond to occasional effort. It responds to patterns. Whatever you repeat, you reinforce. Whatever you reinforce becomes automatic. The problem is that most people repeat the wrong things. They repeat self-doubt, they repeat fear, they repeat procrastination and call it just the way I am. But the truth is, your identity is built by repetition. If you can repeat failure, you can repeat success. If you can rehearse fear, you can rehearse confidence. Every thought, every word, every action leaves an imprint in the brain. When you think a thought, it fires neurons. When you think it again, those same neurons fire together more easily. The brain, being efficient, begins to wire those connections tighter, stronger, faster. That's how habits are born, not by willpower, but by wiring. So when you repeatedly tell yourself, I can't, you strengthen that circuit. But when you repeatedly say, I can, you begin to weaken the old pathway and build a new one. This is neuroplasticity, the mind's ability to reprogram itself through repetition. And the beautiful part is, it works both ways. You can condition failure, or you can condition success. Success is not an event, it's a pattern. It's the consistent repetition of empowering thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that eventually create the life you want. You don't need to change your life overnight. You need to change what you do daily, because what you do daily becomes who you are permanently. The most powerful people in the world aren't the most talented. They're the most consistent. They repeat what works until it becomes natural. They rehearse success until it becomes effortless. They train their minds to focus on growth, on solutions, on what they can control, and they do it so often that it becomes their default setting. Repetition creates mastery. Think about it. Every skill you've ever learned came from repetition. You didn't learn to walk by taking one step. You fell hundreds of times, but your mind learned because you repeated. You didn't learn to read or drive or speak without repetition. But somewhere along the way, adults forget that same principle applies to mindset. They want confidence without practicing courage. They want abundance without practicing gratitude. They want peace without practicing stillness. But you can't have mastery without repetition. You can't have transformation without consistency. The subconscious mind doesn't change with logic. It changes with repetition. You can tell yourself you're confident all day long, but if you don't repeat that belief through emotion and action, your mind won't accept it. The subconscious learns through frequency and feeling. The more often you experience a thought and attach emotion to it, the faster it becomes ingrained. That's why affirmations alone don't work unless you live them. You can't just say, I am strong. Once, you must repeat it, believe it, feel it, and act on it until it's no longer a statement but a truth. Repetition also builds momentum. At first, change feels uncomfortable because your mind is wired for familiarity, not progress. But as you repeat new patterns, your mind starts to adapt. What once felt difficult becomes easier. What once required discipline starts to feel natural. Every small repetition compounds. A single workout doesn't change your body, but 100 do. A single meditation doesn't calm your mind, but 1,000 do. A single positive thought doesn't shift your identity, but thousands of them, repeated over time, create a new version of you. Your habits are your repetition made visible. Look at your life right now. Your results are the outcome of what you've done repeatedly, consciously or unconsciously. If you're not where you want to be, it's not because you lack potential. It's because you've repeated the wrong cycles. You've been consistent with your limitations. You've been disciplined with your distractions. But the moment you redirect that same consistency toward growth, everything changes. Repetition doesn't care what you feed it. It will make anything permanent. So feed it the thoughts, actions, and energy that align with who you want to become. Every day, you have the chance to recondition your mind. The key is to replace old patterns with empowering ones. Start your morning with intentional rituals, gratitude, movement, visualization, powerful language. The more you repeat them, the more you anchor your mind in success. The more you anchor your mind in success, the more naturally you act like a successful person. You stop needing motivation because your new programming runs automatically. Repetition turns effort into instinct. Even your emotions can be trained through repetition. If you've spent years repeating stress, your body becomes addicted to it. But you can teach your body new emotions: joy, calm, focus, confidence, by repeatedly choosing them. Every time you choose peace over panic, gratitude over frustration, faith over fear, you're rewiring your nervous system. You're showing your mind that it doesn't have to return to old emotional habits. And with enough repetition, new emotional states become your baseline. Repetition also builds resilience. When you commit to something long enough, you learn to push past resistance. You develop discipline. You strengthen your identity. The act of doing something consistently, even when it's uncomfortable, trains your mind that you are in control. You stop waiting for motivation because consistency becomes your fuel. Motivation fades, but repetition endures. And the more you repeat success-driven behaviors, the stronger your belief in yourself becomes. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. You don't have to get it right every time. You just have to keep showing up. Every repetition is a vote for your future self. Every action you repeat sends a message to your subconscious. This is who I am now. And eventually, your actions and identity merge. You no longer have to force yourself to think or act like the best version of you. It becomes your nature. Repetition also rewires how you perceive challenges. When you repeatedly face discomfort, fear loses its grip. You become familiar with uncertainty. You build mental muscle. What once triggered anxiety becomes an opportunity to grow. You've trained your mind through repetition to stay grounded under pressure. That's the power of conditioning. It transforms reaction into response, chaos into clarity. To rewire your mind for success, repetition must become a lifestyle. It's not about doing big things once. It's about doing small things daily. It's brushing your mental teeth. It's feeding your brain the same empowering messages over and over until it believes. It's showing up when you don't feel like it. It's reading, learning, practicing, moving, speaking powerfully every single day. The compound effect of repetition is unstoppable because consistency beats intensity every time. The truth is you are already programmed. The question is, programmed for what? Your current mindset is the result of everything you've repeated up until now. If you don't like where your mind takes you, start repeating something new. Start rehearsing success, not struggle. Start practicing gratitude, not complaints. Start speaking possibilities, not problems. The mind doesn't resist repetition. It absorbs it. Feed it what you want it to believe, and soon it will act accordingly. Repetition rewires your focus, your emotions, and your reality. The more you repeat empowering actions, the more you condition yourself to operate from strength instead of weakness. You stop chasing quick fixes and start mastering the process. You stop waiting for the right moment and start creating momentum. Over time, your habits become automatic, your thoughts become aligned, and your life begins to reflect the mental programming you've repeated with intention and purpose. Emotion amplifies belief in action because emotion is energy, and energy is what drives every human being forward. You can have all the strategies, all the plans, all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't have emotion behind it, nothing happens. Emotion is what takes an idea and turns it into movement. It's what transforms belief from words in your head to fire in your soul. When you attach emotion to a thought, it becomes real to your nervous system. It's no longer a concept, it's an experience. The brain doesn't distinguish between what's vividly imagined with emotion and what's physically lived. That's why emotional intensity has the power to reshape beliefs faster than logic ever could. Beliefs are just thoughts that you've repeated with enough emotion that your mind accepted them as truth. If you tell yourself, I can't, with enough fear, frustration, or pain, your subconscious accepts that story and builds your behavior around it. But if you say, I can, with total conviction, energy, and excitement, your brain will start to find ways to make that reality true. Emotion is the signal that tells your brain what matters. What you feel deeply gets stored deeply. That's why moments of passion, joy, heartbreak, or victory stick with you for life, because emotion imprints. It leaves a mark on your subconscious, shaping how you act, react, and decide in the future. To truly reprogram your mind for success, you have to infuse your beliefs with emotion. You can't just think about success. You have to feel it. You have to breathe it, see it, embody it. When you visualize your goals, don't do it passively. Feel the energy of what it would be like to achieve them. Feel the gratitude, the power, the pride, the relief. The more vividly you feel it, the faster your brain starts to believe it's possible. Emotion speeds up manifestation because it collapses the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Your nervous system starts to behave as if it's already happened, and your actions naturally align with that belief. Emotion is also the bridge between thought and action. You can know what to do, but still not do it because knowledge without emotion has no force. Emotion is what creates urgency. It's what compels you to move, to act, to break through hesitation. When you attach strong positive emotion to a goal, procrastination disappears. You stop waiting for the perfect moment because the emotion becomes too strong to ignore. You're no longer trying to push yourself into action. You're pulled by something greater. That's the power of emotional drive. The mind follows the body, and the body follows emotion. When you raise your emotional energy through movement, breath, sound, or focus, you shift your state instantly. You can't stay stuck in fear or doubt while your body is flooded with power and certainty. This is why changing your physical state is so effective in changing your mindset. Emotion is not something that happens to you. It's something you can generate. You can decide right now to feel confident, to feel grateful, to feel unstoppable. And when you do that consistently, your beliefs start to match the emotional standard you set. Emotion is also contagious. The energy you carry affects every interaction, every room you walk into, every opportunity that comes your way. People don't respond to your words, they respond to your vibration. When you speak from emotion, people feel it. When you move with passion, people notice. When you act with certainty, life responds. You attract what matches your emotional frequency. If you constantly project fear or doubt, you'll attract situations that reinforce it. But if you radiate confidence and gratitude, you'll draw in opportunities that align with that energy. Most people try to change their lives by changing their thoughts, but they skip the emotion. That's why it doesn't stick. You can think, I'm confident all day long, but if deep down you feel weak, your actions will still reflect that feeling. Emotion is what convinces the subconscious mind that something is real. You have to feel the emotion of confidence before you become confident. You have to feel the emotion of abundance before you attract abundance. Emotion is the language your subconscious understands, not logic, not analysis, but energy and feeling. The secret is to consciously create emotional anchors. Anchor the emotion of power, success, gratitude, and certainty in your body through repetition and intensity. You can do this through music, visualization, breathwork, movement, or affirmations, anything that raises your energy. When you pair emotion with a new belief, you create a powerful imprint. Over time, the mind begins to associate that emotional state with who you are. It becomes automatic. You stop needing to fake confidence because your body and brain now recognize it as your natural state. Emotion also determines the quality of your actions. Two people can take the same action but get completely different results because of the emotion behind it. One person takes action out of fear, desperate to avoid failure. The other acts from love, passion, or vision. The first strains energy, the second creates it. The emotion you bring to an action determines its power. That's why when you approach something with joy and excitement, it flows. When you approach it with stress and resistance, it feels heavy. Emotion doesn't just influence success, it defines the entire experience of it. Your emotional state is a choice, but most people live as if it's random. They wake up, check their phone, and let the world decide how they feel. But emotion is something you can condition. You can train yourself to feel powerful every day, regardless of circumstances. You can decide that no matter what happens, you'll maintain a state of gratitude and strength. Because emotion doesn't come from what happens. It comes from what you focus on. Focus on what's missing, and you'll feel lack. Focus on what's possible, and you'll feel abundance. The fastest way to shift your life is to shift your emotional state. When you change the way you feel, you change the way you think. When you change the way you think, you change the way you act. And when you change the way you act, your life changes automatically. Emotion is the catalyst that accelerates all transformation. It's the difference between hoping and believing, between wishing and achieving. When you connect emotion to a new belief, your subconscious begins to reorganize everything in alignment with that emotion. Emotion also transforms pain into power. The same energy that creates suffering can be redirected into growth. Anger can become drive. Fear can become focus. Sadness can become wisdom. Every emotion has energy. It's just a matter of how you channel it. Instead of suppressing emotions, use them. Let them fuel your purpose. Let them remind you what you care about. The most powerful people are not those who avoid emotion, but those who harness it. They use pain as a teacher, passion as a motivator, and gratitude as a compass. To truly amplify your belief in action, you must live emotionally awake. Feel deeply, act boldly, express fully. Don't numb yourself to life. Don't hide behind logic or fear of judgment. Let yourself feel the fullness of excitement, hope, and determination. Because emotion is what gives meaning to everything. Without emotion, success feels empty. Without emotion, goals become chores. But with emotion, everything comes alive. Your belief becomes unshakable, your actions unstoppable, and your energy magnetic. Emotion is the amplifier that turns intention into reality, thought into movement, and potential into power. Action reinforces your new identity, because the moment you take action, you send a message to your mind about who you really are. You can tell yourself all day long that you're confident, disciplined, or successful, but until your actions match that identity, your brain doesn't believe it. The subconscious mind doesn't listen to what you say. It listens to what you do. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. When you take action aligned with your goals, even in small ways, you begin to reprogram your self-image. You begin to feel different, think different, and move different because your behavior starts to match your belief. Action is the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. Most people wait to feel ready before they act, but readiness never comes. Waiting keeps you stuck in the same loop of thought, fear, and hesitation. The truth is, Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. Every time you move, you create momentum. Every time you push forward despite fear, you train your brain to see yourself as capable. Every single decision to act reshapes your identity at a subconscious level. You stop identifying as someone who hesitates and start identifying as someone who takes control. That's how transformation happens, not in your head, but in your hands. Action builds belief faster than anything else. You can read, visualize, or affirm your goals all day, but when you act on them, you experience evidence of who you can be. You give your mind proof that your new identity is real. The brain learns through evidence, not theory. So when you start doing the things the best version of you would do, waking up early, showing up with confidence, speaking with certainty, staying consistent, you condition your subconscious to see yourself differently. Each action reinforces the new neural pathways you've been building through thought and emotion. Action also breaks fear's illusion. Fear feeds on inaction. The longer you think about doing something, the bigger the fear grows. But the moment you take a step, no matter how small, fear loses its grip. You realize that most of what held you back was never real. It was just uncertainty. Action cuts through uncertainty like light through fog. When you move, you get feedback. When you get feedback, you grow. And with growth comes confidence. You don't become confident and then act. You act and then become confident. Confidence is the reward for courage. Every small action compounds. One decision won't change your life, but thousands of consistent decisions will. Success isn't built in a single leap. It's built brick by brick, choice by choice. Each action you take, no matter how small, plants a seed in your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who doesn't give up, someone who makes progress no matter what. The more you act, the more natural it feels. You no longer need to force discipline. It becomes part of who you are. That's the power of consistency. Action is also how you override old patterns. Your mind will always default to what's familiar, even if familiar means painful. But when you act in new ways, you teach your brain that there's a new normal. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort is growth. It's your old identity fighting for survival. The key is to keep acting through it. Repetition of new action rewires the nervous system. The brain starts to associate action with safety instead of fear. Over time, what was once uncomfortable becomes effortless. You don't think about it anymore, you just do it. Action also generates momentum. Momentum is the most powerful force in personal growth because once you have it, everything becomes easier. The first steps are always the hardest because you're fighting inertia, but once you start moving, your own progress starts to pull you forward. Momentum creates belief. It's hard to doubt yourself when you're in motion, when you're making things happen, when you're seeing results. Even small wins feed your psychology with fuel to keep going. Action is how you create that unstoppable force that pushes you through resistance. When you act, you also send a clear message to the universe, to life itself, that you're serious. You're no longer just wishing or hoping, you're participating. Life responds to movement. Opportunities start appearing when you're in motion because energy attracts energy. Action aligns you with possibility. It shifts you from passive observer to active creator. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. Action is also the antidote to overthinking. The mind loves to analyze, predict, and control outcomes, but overthinking drains energy and builds paralysis. Action interrupts that cycle. The moment you take a step, your focus shifts from fear to movement. You don't need to have the entire path figured out. You just need to move one step forward. The next step always reveals itself once you're in motion. Action turns uncertainty into discovery. It turns doubt into direction. The secret is not to wait for perfect conditions. Perfection is an illusion. The best never started ready. They started willing to learn, to fail, to adapt. Every action, even imperfect action, builds experience. Experience builds wisdom. Wisdom builds mastery. So stop waiting to be perfect. Start moving toward progress. The world rewards those who act, not those who wait. Every action you take strengthens a new identity, but every action you avoid strengthens the old one. When you don't act, you reinforce the story that you can't, that you're not ready, that you're not enough. That story grows stronger each time you listen to it. But when you act even once, you start to rewrite the script. You start to prove to yourself that you're capable. You break the cycle of hesitation and create a new loop of power. Action also connects thought, emotion, and belief into one unified force. You've trained your mind to think differently. You've trained your emotions to feel differently. But it's the action that locks it all in. Without action, belief stays intellectual. With action, belief becomes identity. It becomes who you are. The more you live in alignment with that new identity, the faster it becomes automatic. You no longer have to remind yourself to act like your future self because you've become that person through repetition. There's something primal about action. It activates something deep within you. When you move, you awaken energy that lies dormant during passivity. You feel alive, you feel connected, you feel capable. Every time you take a risk, every time you step into discomfort, every time you move forward despite fear, you're sculpting your character. You're reinforcing the idea that you are the kind of person who doesn't shrink back, who doesn't settle, who doesn't stop. Action transforms potential into power. It's easy to have dreams, ideas, and plans, but without execution, they're just noise. Every dream demands movement. Every goal requires evidence. When you take action, you give life to your vision. You pull it from imagination into reality. You make it tangible. You make it real to your senses. That's when identity fully locks in, when your outer world starts to mirror your inner vision. Action also builds resilience because through action, you fail, you adapt, you grow. Every mistake becomes data. Every setback becomes feedback. You stop fearing failure because you realize failures is just refinement. You're no longer defined by the result. You're defined by your willingness to act. And that willingness becomes your strength. Action is how you align with your future self. The person you want to become is already acting a certain way, thinking a certain way, living a certain way. Every time you take action in alignment with that version, you collapse the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. You start living as that person now, and the world starts responding accordingly. Action is not just something you do. It's something you are. It's how identity becomes reality. It's how belief becomes truth. It's how transformation becomes visible. Your mindset determines your destiny because every choice you make, every action you take, every opportunity you notice all begins with the lens through which you see the world. The mind is the filter that interprets reality, and that interpretation becomes your experience. Two people can face the exact same situation and have completely different outcomes. One sees limitation, the other sees possibility. One gives up, the other perseveres. One complains, the other creates. The difference isn't circumstance, it's mindset. The beliefs, assumptions, and mental habits you carry shape how you respond to life and ultimately shape where your life goes. Most people underestimate the power of their own mind. They blame external factors, the economy, other people, luck, timing for their lack of progress. But the truth is circumstances are neutral. It is your interpretation and your response that determine the result. Your mind is like soil. Whatever you plant, it grows. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and negativity, that is what will flourish. If you plant seeds of belief, courage, and possibility, that will flourish instead. The results you achieve are the direct reflection of the dominant patterns in your mind. Your mindset influences your perception of problems and opportunities. When your mind is conditioned to scarcity, you see obstacles everywhere. You focus on what could go wrong rather than what could go right. Fear becomes the dominant motivator and avoidance becomes habitual. When your mindset is one of abundance, every challenge is an invitation. Every setback is a lesson. You see options that others miss. You recognize solutions before others even notice the problem. Your mind literally directs your attention, and what you pay attention to expands. Your destiny is drawn by the focus of your mind. The subconscious mind is particularly powerful in shaping destiny because it operates continuously, influencing your emotions, decisions, and actions without conscious awareness. Most people are unaware of how many of their choices are dictated by unconscious beliefs formed in childhood, culture, and past experiences. Limiting beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, or life is hard silently govern behavior until confronted and changed. Reprogramming these beliefs is essential because your subconscious will ensure that your outer world reflects the inner story you carry. Until you align your subconscious with the reality you want, your destiny will remain bound to old patterns. Mindset also determines resilience. Life is unpredictable and challenges are inevitable. The same challenge can destroy one person and strengthen another, depending entirely on their mental framework. A growth-oriented mindset sees failure not as an endpoint, but as feedback. It interprets setbacks as temporary and solvable, not as proof of inadequacy. A fixed mindset, however, interprets failure as confirmation of limitations, leading to discouragement, stagnation, and avoidance. Your destiny hinges on your ability to interpret challenges productively, and that interpretation comes entirely from your mindset. Your internal dialogue shapes your reality because the stories you tell yourself dictate your emotions and behaviors. If your thoughts are dominated by worry, self-doubt, and negativity, your actions will mirror those emotions and your external world will conform. Conversely, if you maintain thoughts of possibility, confidence, and purpose, your actions will align with those emotions and opportunities will manifest accordingly. Mindset is the internal programming that guides how you navigate life, and the quality of that programming determines the trajectory of your existence. Your mindset also shapes relationships and influence. People respond to the energy and perspective you carry. A mindset of abundance, empathy, and collaboration attracts support, partnerships, and opportunities. A mindset of fear, scarcity, and defensiveness repels connection and growth. The way you perceive yourself directly impacts how others perceive you. Leaders, innovators, and creators all understand that cultivating a resilient, growth-focused, empowered mindset amplifies their ability to impact the world and achieve extraordinary outcomes. Daily habits reinforce mindset. What you feed your mind through thought, media, conversation, and reflection determines whether your beliefs grow stronger or weaker. Consuming negativity, doubt, and fear reinforces limiting patterns. Engaging with inspiration, possibility, and learning strengthens empowering beliefs. Repetition of thought and focus rewires the brain. The more consistently you cultivate empowering mental patterns, the more automatic they become, influencing decisions, actions, and ultimately the results you achieve. Your destiny is shaped by the small daily mental choices you make consistently over time. Mindset also determines how you set goals and pursue them. Someone with a fixed mindset sets goals based on fear, avoidance, or societal expectations. Someone with a growth mindset sets goals based on vision, purpose, and potential. A mindset of limitation results in self-sabotage, procrastination, and lack of follow-through. A mindset of expansion generates persistence, creativity, and action. Success is not determined by the goal itself, but by the mindset you bring to the pursuit of that goal. The mind determines not only what you aim for, but also how relentlessly you pursue it. Visualization and mental rehearsal are tools that leverage mindset to influence destiny. The mind doesn't differentiate between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences. When you visualize achieving a goal, solving a problem, or becoming a certain kind of person, you are sending powerful signals to your subconscious. You are reinforcing neural pathways that support those behaviors and outcomes. Mental rehearsal combined with emotion and repetition programs your mind to act consistently with the reality you want to create. Your destiny is shaped not only by what you do, but also by what your mind consistently imagines and expects. Mindset also dictates your perception of time and patience. Those with a growth-oriented mindset understand that meaningful success requires discipline, effort, and persistence over time. They are willing to invest in long-term growth rather than seeking instant gratification. Those with a scarcity mindset want quick results and often abandon progress at the first sign of difficulty. Your destiny unfolds over time, and your mental approach to patience, consistency, and effort determines whether you endure long enough to reach extraordinary outcomes. The power of mindset lies in its influence over both action and interpretation. It determines not only what you attempt, but also how you interpret results. A person with a positive, growth-oriented mindset sees setbacks as lessons, mistakes as learning opportunities, and effort as progress. A person with a limiting mindset sees setbacks as failures, mistakes as proof of inadequacy, and effort as wasted energy. Because life is a continuous series of actions and reactions, mindset is the lens through which every experience is filtered. Your outcomes are the natural consequence of that lens. Cultivating a strong, empowered mindset requires self-awareness and intentionality. You must observe your thoughts, challenge limiting beliefs, and consciously replace them with empowering ones. You must choose your focus, language, and perspective. You must actively decide how to interpret setbacks, criticism, and challenges. Mindset is not passive. It is cultivated daily through reflection, discipline, and deliberate choice. The more intentional you are about shaping your mental landscape, the more your destiny aligns with your highest potential. Ultimately, mindset is the engine behind every achievement. It determines how you respond to opportunities, handle adversity, and maintain focus on your goals. It shapes your energy, your actions, your relationships, and your ability to create lasting change. No amount of luck, talent, or circumstance can overcome a mind programmed for limitation. Conversely, a mind trained for growth, resilience, and possibility can transform even challenging circumstances into stepping stones toward extraordinary outcomes. Your mindset is the blueprint for your life. Every thought you allow to dominate your mind, every belief you reinforce, every perspective you adopt contributes to the reality you experience. Your destiny is not a product of chance. It is a product of consistent mental focus, interpretation, and belief. The mind is both the architect and the builder of your future. By cultivating awareness, embracing growth, and reinforcing empowering beliefs, you align your thoughts, emotions, and actions toward the life you truly desire. Your destiny is the direct reflection of the mental framework you choose to inhabit,